Hello, my name's Damian Jones from H&H Classics, and I'm here today to talk about our upcoming Motorsport Hall of Fame auction, which is being held in the Royal Automobile Club's magnificent Woodcote Park estate on Tuesday, June the 5th. We've got some fantastic cars going under the hammer. It's a restricted auction of selected cars, so there are 55 on offer. The cover car, the one which has perhaps generated the most excitement, is a 1965 E-Type semi-lightweight competition roadster that has the distinction of being the very first E-Type that Sir Stirling Moss drove in an RAC MSA sanctioned competitive event. The E-Type was loaned to Sir Stirling Moss to drive on the Manx Classic by its then owner Graham Warwick, who went on to race it something like 100 times himself, and also lent it to Win Percy for the E-Type's 40th anniversary race at Donington Park in 2001, where it qualified a highly impressive third. It's a fabulous car. It's available at a guide price which would be a fraction of what it would cost to build today. It's got a lovely provenance, and as I say, it has generated considerable excitement. The star car for many will be the 1924 Bentley 3-litre H.J. Mulliner Simplex Drophead Coupe. It's a very, very unusual car in terms of a WO because it retains its original coachwork as well as the original chassis and certainly parts of the original engine. It's a car that's been loved all the way through its life. It would have been extremely expensive when new, so perhaps a little surprise that it was first owned by a member of the De Beers Diamond dynasty. The car's been cherished by successive owners, never allowed to deteriorate to the point where it's needed extensive restoration. It has been restored over time and kept running, but it's a car that's also undertaken quite a lot of long-distance touring and events, including a 3,500 mile trouble-free tour of New Zealand in the late 90s. As I say, in terms of a WO, it is a jewel of a car, and it's also extremely elegant and practical as a 4-seater WO 3-litre. Other notable entries, and on the road car side, include a 1960 Bentley S2 Continental Drophead Coupe, which is one of just 60 right-hand drive examples ever made. It was supplied new to C. Neal and it originally had the registration plate G1. During the current ownership, which has been from 2005 onwards, it's been regularly maintained by marque specialists and sympathetically upgraded, and it's a huge amount of style and panache for the money. Another contender in terms of style and panache would be the 1962 Ferrari 250 GTE 2+2 Series 2 that was supplied new to Willy Peter Datelyler, and he was notable for being the very first person to win the FIA's European Mountain Championship, and certainly on the hills of Europe, in terms of hill climbs during the 50s, he was very much the man to beat. Back to competition cars, and we've got the 1959 Triumph TR3S Tribute, which, as well as being the fastest TR to compete at Classic Le Mans, achieving 137 miles an hour on the Mulsanne Straight, is notable because when the vendor entrusted Protec, marque specialist, to build the car for him, he was able to track down the registration number XHP 939 and chassis plate of one of the actual factory team cars that raced in period. So it was a very, very faithful tribute. Okay, it doesn't have exactly the right engine, but in terms of the chassis, that is absolutely spot on. The body's spot on. It's got lots of very, very nice features about it, and it's eligible for some wonderful events as well as Le Mans Classic. You know, it's been to Silverstone. It's potentially eligible for the Goodwood Ford Water Trophy and Spa Classic. Again, you know, the money it's in at 100 to 120,000, you couldn't have it built for that by a reputable firm these days. So it is unusual entry to a number of highly prestigious events. We've got the earliest MG in the world to have survived in a complete and unmolested state in terms of a production vehicle. Old number one, the Special, is arguable, well, is older, but isn't as authentic or as original as this car. We've also got a 1936 MG PB Supercharged, and that's unusual because it was a competition car from day one. It was specifically ordered for use in trials, and it was later works prepared to race at Brooklands and went on to compete at Crystal Palace, Goodwood and the British Empire Trophy. Its performance on the British Empire Trophy actually earned it the nickname of the beam axle bombshell, because although it retired from the race, it outperformed much younger and on paper much more powerful machinery. Among the more unusual lots on offer are a brace of cars from the estate of the late great Frank Costin, including a rear-engined prototype which was affectionately known amongst Costin aficionados as the dustbin or the mule. There's a selection of Costin-Nathan fiberglass body moulds which could prove invaluable if anybody wanted to produce front and rear shells for the cars. There's also the last project that Frank Costin worked on, which was to be a road-going sports car. That comes with, although there's no running gear in it, the chassis and body are complete. It comes with spare body shells and all the intellectual property rights if somebody wanted to put that sports roadster into production. There are various lovely Jaguar XKs in the sale. There's an XK120 fixed-head coupe that was extensively uprated for long-distance rallying. There's an XK140 Roadster that's a matching chassis and engine numbers car that was nicely restored a few years ago. And there's an XK150 SE Roadster, still in its original left-hand drive configuration with matching chassis, engine and body numbers, that's not long emerged from a chassis-up renovation. Other racers on offer include 1956 Austin A30 that's not only won its race at the Goodwood Revival in 2016 but also the Silverstone Classic in 2017. It was a car that was built by Mike Jordan's Jordan Racing team. It is a proper little jewel. There's also a wonderful 1973 BMW CSL Batmobile Evocation that was completed earlier this year. The papers have been applied for FIA papers for Group 2 competition, and that is again really just very nicely finished, nicely detailed. Batmobile of course was one of the most iconic race cars of the 70s, and this would be a wonderful entry to historic racing, and somebody could leave their own stamp on it. It's in the motorsport colours and has a genuine Alpina engine, so well worth a look. We've got viewing on Monday, June the 4th from 1 o'clock until 4 o'clock, unless you're attending the Hall of Fame dinner that evening, in which case you can view all the cars from drinks through to dessert. There's viewing again on Tuesday the 5th. That starts at 12:30 with the auction kicking off at 3 o'clock. We'd very much like to see you at Woodcote Park. It's an absolutely beautiful estate and we think we've got some lovely cars for you to have a look at. We'd welcome you there. Thank you.